Welcome back. Amid heated ongoing campaigning in Maharashtra for the upcoming assembly polls, the Supreme Court today has allowed Ajit Pawar-led NCP faction to use the clock symbol, but the court instructed Ajit Pawar-led NCP to refrain from using photographs or videos of party founder Sharad Pawar during campaigning. In fact, the court went on to start with asking the question that why were the photographs being used on online content put up by Ajit Pawar-led NCP. That's the name as well as the photographs. A bench of Justices Surya Kant as well as Ujjwal Bhuiyan remarked that both the factions should focus on their side of the battlefield. It emphasized that voters are wise enough to see through any confusion. The court commented that Ajit Pawar-led faction should not depend on Sharad Pawar's name in the election fight and should stand up on their own legs. The top court had earlier directed the Ajit Pawar-led faction to add a disclaimer in its election ads clarifying that the use of clock symbol was subject to the outcome of legal proceedings with the Sharad Pawar-led faction over the ownership of the party's symbol. And the court had actually pulled up the Ajit faction asking why this disclaimer was not said, and the Ajit Pawar faction had gone on to say, which is now the NCP, at least for now, has gone on to say that they would publish it in the Maharashtra dailies as well. Ahead of the hearing today, Ajit Pawar filed compliance affidavit in Supreme Court informing that he has published these disclaimers in the newspaper. I'm being joined by Clyde Crasto at this point, the national spokesperson for NCP Sharad Pawar faction, as well as Avinash Adik, who's the national secretary and spokesperson for NCP, which is led by Ajit Pawar. First to you, Avinash Adik. My first question to you, what do you make out of what the Supreme Court has said? Because many would say in this high-stakes battle in Maharashtra, this is possibly the last thing that you needed to hear from the Supreme Court. It's literally the Supreme Court schooling you, saying try standing on your own legs now at least.
Well, good evening. I'm very grateful to the Honorable Supreme Court for having given this judgment, this ruling, this directive. Let me at the outset clarify that in the initial days when we joined this government, there were a lot of leaders within the party who still have and will continue to have the highest respect for Pawar sahib. So even though we had parted ways, politically speaking, some of us did use his photograph in our individual social media campaigns or on our Facebook pages or on Instagram handles, on our Twitter handles. And subsequent to that, when Pawar Sahib himself made it very clear that none of us or nobody should use his image without his explicit permission, we immediately dropped all his pictures from whatever handles we were using. Those individuals who respect him and love him will continue to do so, but without using his picture. And now that the directive from the Supreme Court is there, that the symbol can be used, we are using it. We were using it with a disclaimer, as was directed by the Honorable Supreme Court. And we'll continue to use it in whatever way the Supreme Court wants us to use it. But we will definitely not use whatever Pawar Sahib has objections to. We shall honor his wishes to the fullest.
Do we have Clyde Crasto with us? All right, Clyde Crasto, you have gone to court and said that NCP Ajit Pawar faction is actually trying to create confusion. But the truth is that at least what they are claiming on TV is that they respect Sharad Pawar, and that's why had been using their photographs.
You know, when I heard Avinash Adik talk, and I do not doubt even for a second that Avinash has immense respect for Honorable Sharad Pawar Sahib, and that I will leave it to that for him. But there are many leaders in the NCP of the Ajit Pawar faction who have gone ahead and made certain statements, maybe not directly disrespecting, but statements like, you know, how long will he continue? There is a time when he has to retire. You know, it's about time he retires. Today, the Honorable Supreme Court's directive just puts everything into perspective, and it just says that's about time the Ajit Pawar group, not everybody probably in that group, but majority of the section of the Ajit Pawar group must now realize that they need to stand on their own feet. How long can they go on continuing like this? So the fact of the matter is that today we feel
Okay, I
vindicated
think
because we know that they were using his name, they were using his picture. There are still certain sections of the cadre in their party is using the name and the picture. Fair enough, but now after the Supreme Court directive, I'm sure they will stop doing it, and they have to, because then the law will be enforced in that. And yes,
Mr. Clyde Crasto, you're freezing in between. You're barely visible. We can barely hear you. Apologies for you, but we'll have to cut short this debate. It's hardly a debate that can be done on television like this. Apologies from our side to Clyde Crasto as well as Avinash Adik as